got a granddaughter who will put those to good use. I'll take them down to Tampa next time. Sure, throw them over there. I see Ken brought. You and I coughed up our beads for her. She likes that kind of stuff. Oh.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Test, test. Can everyone hear me okay? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome you to this February 28th board meeting of the Lynn Haven Community Redevelopment Agency, better known as the CRA. I'd like to call the meeting to order. And first of all, item number 2, if I could ask for a motion for approval of the meeting minutes from September 19th, 2016.
So moved. Second.
Thank you. There's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion or any changes that need to be made to those minutes? September 2016 seems a long time ago. Any discussion from the public? Mr. Schubert, would you please call the roll for approval?
Commissioner Shad?
Aye.
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes?
Aye.
Commissioner Ashbrook?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes. So the meeting minutes stand approved. Moving to item number 3, this is discussion and possible action regarding construction bids for the Sheffield Park renovation project. Is there a staff report before I ask for a motion and second regarding this?
Yes, Mr. Jenke is
Okay,
here.
Ben Jenke, if you wouldn't mind filling us in a little bit, and thank you so much.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. We've been working on this project now for a couple of months. A couple of weeks ago, we entertained a sealed bid process for the construction of the renovation improvements at Sheffield Park. This bid process included a phase 1, a base bid for the stage only, and an alternate bid for the additional improvements that we had planned for the entire park. Unfortunately, when we received the bids were over the anticipated budget, so we reached out to the lowest bidder, GAC Contractors, to see if they can come up with a value engineered option of the stage. They submitted some renderings that illustrate an alternative design for the stage at a price for at $300,000, and that is a price not to exceed. So at this point, we're requesting consideration of this alternate bid so that we can move forward with this project.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the board regarding this project?
Could I just add a couple of comments? That this is the Sheffield Park stage. This was vetted in, I think, 2 public workshops approximately a year ago, is my recollection. There's a smaller stage in the middle of the park across the street here, and this would be a corner stage in the southeast corner. And while the design won't be the original design, the size is still the same, the concept is still the same. Basically, the only thing this design lacks, the major thing, is enclosed changing or bathrooms.
And I would also like to add a thank you, for the hard work that's gone into the design. And having been a theater teacher for many years of my life, the arts are so important, and we have all of our schools here in Lynn Haven in such close proximity to this park. And part of the design that is so attractive to me as a theater teacher and as an entertainer is the way the stairs are incorporated into the stage, and the way the stage is pointed away from the residential areas to keep the noise from the residential areas and coming toward the street. But the stairs, the way they are, will allow larger groups, dancers, or if we had a school choir or a school band, they can be sequentially standing as though they're on risers so that their parents and grandparents can see them better instead of all standing at a level where the short ones are not ever seen and the tall ones are put in the back and that kind of thing. Those are horrendous things to happen when you're a child. So I think this stage is well done, and I just wanted to say, I think it's going to be a great addition to our park and to our city's activities and our ability to come together as neighbors and friends and celebrate good events. So, does anyone else have a comment? Anyone from the public have a question? Ben, did you have something else?
Just as an add-on, if you look on the agenda, item number 4 is in regards to the Sheffield Park stage. If the board decides to move forward with the value engineered option, we would have to make some minor modifications to the engineering plans, specifically the electrical plans, which would require us to update the engineering contract with Dewberry. So I just wanted to point this out. This is going to be the next agenda
The next
item.
step, okay, thank you so much. Okay, any comments from the public on this item, item number 3, the discussion of the stage, because we did have some great public meetings already. Okay, then Mr. Schubert, would you please, excuse me, may I have a motion, please, for acceptance?
I'll move approval.
Second.
There's been a motion for acceptance for this to proceed, and there's been a second. Mr. Schubert, then would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Shad?
Aye.
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes?
Aye.
Commissioner Ashbrook?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes, and so this motion is carried. And then item number 4, as Mr. Janke was just telling us, is a discussion and possible action regarding the change order for the Sheffield Park Engineering Services regarding the electrical portions of the stage. Are there any questions from the board for Mr. Janke regarding this part of your packet?
Is the motion to be made that we direct staff to work this out with the engineering firm? I need to know the form of the motion. Or
I think the motion is for an additional $4,000 for engineering to alter the design for the electrical.
I was thinking it was 5. Is it 4?
There was an error, Ben. I think there was 4 in one area and 5 in the other. The correct is 4.
Okay, so it's
it's
4,000, not 5,000. Okay.
So we need that motion and to have further discussion, then I'll make that motion.
Okay, so there's been a motion for this to be accepted in the amount of $4,000. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second for a change order in the amount of $4,000 for the engineering for the park. Any further discussion from the board? Any comments or questions from the public? And there seem to be none. Mr. Schubert, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Ashbrook?
Yes.
Commissioner Shad?
Aye.
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes?
Aye.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes, and so this change order will go forward, item number 4. Moving to item number 5, which is the discussion and possible action regarding the Storefront Assistance Program application for the Ace Hardware Store at 520 Ohio Avenue. Is there a motion for this to go forward?
I move approval.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Are there any questions or discussion about this item, about the Storefront Assistance Program? We've done this for many of the new businesses which have been a part of this program. Mr. Janke, did you have any comments that you wanted to make regarding the program, or not really? Okay. Are there any questions then from the public regarding this? Mr. Walker, yes. Please state your name and address.
Rich Walker, 1106 Michigan Avenue. On the storefront assistance program, is it presently capped at a certain amount of money? No. Not at all. So we can go over, well, I notice in the new package coming up, it's $100,000, and that's an increase over the homeowners one, which was $50,000 it was capped at. Have we changed that?
Mr. Walker, if you would address your question to the board, and Mr. Janke, if you would come to the podium. Mr. Walker, would you mind to step over?
I do that, but you turn it over to him
I know, it's a
anyway.
little confusing. If you would, no, stay where you are, you're good. If you'll just maybe step to the side, and then Ben can speak from the podium, and then you can come back. We won't take, I'm just trying to keep the decorum so we're not speaking directly to staff from the public. Thank you so much. Okay, Ben.
The maximum amount for the storefront assistance program is $27,500. Currently, this fiscal year, our budget for assistance programs, and that includes the residential as well, is $45,000. That's our available budget as of today.
Okay.
Staff is recommending the approval of the reimbursement of $7,500 for this project.
Okay, thank you so much. Mr. Walker, if you want to come back to the podium now, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mayor. So as I understand it, we do have a cap at it. That price is, if I remember rightly, is $27,000 per they apply for, excuse me, I'm
It's
sorry.
okay, it's
I'm
okay.
sorry.
It's okay.
That is $27,000 per, and they apply that to here. Has anybody ever been given the $27,500?
Not to my
No.
knowledge.
No, I think the maximum amount has been 7,500, and I think that's been awarded earlier this year.
A long time ago, we discussed this when it first started, and it seems ridiculous to put $27,000 they can put in for it, but they never get it. And they were promised it and never get it. Why don't we, as was recommended, change that to a cap of, let's say, $10,000 and an application accordingly? It doesn't seem sensible. The reason I say this is this caused a lot of disconcern over a company over here that applied for the $27,000 and never got it.
Okay. I think that that's a reasonable assertion that you're making, and I think maybe that would be something to bring maybe to the CRA advisory board and about a change, or if you wanted to directly ask a question of one of the board members here, if they would be willing to, entertain that. That's another option too.
I can respond, Mayor.
Okay.
As far as I know, they should not have been promised 27.5. They can apply for up to 27.5, then based on the scale of their project, on their improvements, how much money was invested, the impact on the community, the return on investment, and how many other projects have already applied this fiscal year, that money is decided on. And that's what happened.
Yeah,
So I mean, they go in knowing that it's up, you can apply it for 27.5, you can be awarded up to that, but, I mean, a public records request will show you what typically is awarded. I'm with you. I mean, if you're proposing, I mean, there's been some great things going on, and that's part of it, Mr. Walker, is we've got a couple other businesses that have taken advantage of this, not taken advantage of it, but put it to good use, and our corridor is looking great. There's another business owner here tonight that's going to apply. So, I mean, you got to take into consideration what's budgeted for the year, what funds are available, and the impact of each project.
because just for a short shot, I do remember the original concept many, many years ago, and the way it was presented to the businesses and the public, and it was $20,000, $7,500 for engineering. And when it was applied the first time, it failed. And it put a lot of heartburn in the businesses of this town. So I will bring this to the CRA.
I think that would be a good topic for the advisory board.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Anyone else have a question about the storefront assistance program or a concern? Okay, at this time, then, Mr. Schubert, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Barnes?
Aye.
Commissioner Ashbrook?
Yes.
Commissioner Shad?
Aye.
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes, and so the $7,500 would be passed then for this. And by the way, we're very happy to have the Ace Hardware store now right here in the middle of old historic Lynn Haven. How great. Item number 6.
Ma'am, was there a motion on the last one?
Item number 6 is the public commentary. Is there any topic regarding the CRA that anyone would like to address that's not on the agenda tonight? Mr. Walker? Sure.
Rich Walker, 1106 Michigan Avenue. Recently, or a while back, we were in a CRA meeting, and the people were getting up to speak, and everything was fine, except, no disrespect, but the mayor cut them short because their 15 minutes of the meeting was over. So they couldn't go any further. They couldn't discuss it because they didn't want to intrude on the commission meeting.
I cut someone short, really?
Yep. Yes,
Okay.
you did. You cut the meeting. You stopped it.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I don't recall. I'll take your word.
Yeah,
though. Go ahead.
that's okay. That's okay. My point is
I
this.
apologize if I offended someone. Go ahead.
It was understandable. I don't think that we should have a CRA meeting that only goes for 15 minutes. I think that stops the citizens from being able to speak, even though we have a 3-minute rule, and you can extend that. I do believe that, for example, we're going to be cut short right now.
No, I don't think so. And now that you're talking about this, I recall we had a public hearing and we had to be at a certain time. So I do agree with you that we should not have this meeting bumped up to the point that we feel that we have to rush it. I think
Yes.
I think that's a legitimate concern. So
Because-
please go ahead.
Because coming up, we have a lot of things that are dealing with the CRA, and it's going to take time. So if we can allow time to really digest the information and bring a good presentation in front, I would like to say that I would suggest that we look at not being curtailed by a time frame.
Okay.
We can move the commission meetings a little bit.
I think that is a legitimate concern, and I, as the mayor, I think I could put the time for the meeting an hour before at least, and then if it were to run further. But I do recall that now because I think we had a public hearing constraint and we had to stop it and go forward. So that is a legitimate concern. Is there anyone else that has a comment? Or yes, Ben?
I would just like to point out to the CRA board that we have tonight here at least 2 of our advisory board members in the audience, and I just wanted to take a moment and thank them for their willingness to serve on a community board as a volunteer and bring all this expertise to the table. So
Would you like to recognize them by name and have them stand? That would be wonderful.
Absolutely.
Thank
Our
you.
chairman, Bill Hodgkins, here, all right, and James Hans. And thank you.
Thank you all so much for your willingness to serve. So at this time, I'd like to adjourn the Lynn Haven Community Redevelopment Agency meeting at 6:01, and it is adjourned. And then we will go right into the Lynn Haven City Commission meeting now. And as Mr. Walker was pointing out, they do sort of run together quickly. So first of all, I'd like to call the meeting to order. It's now 6:02. And I'd like to start with, instead of the invocation tonight, I wanted to share something with you that just as you would just maybe have a moment of silence or meditation on this thought. Yesterday, Sunday, I had the privilege of attending New Hope Baptist Church for their Black History Month celebration. And I listened very carefully to the words of Pastor Dion Gilbert, who is also a member of one of our boards. And as he spoke, he talked about, I was kind of expecting something maybe different, but there were no divisive words spoken. And he spoke about what a loving community that we live in here in Lynn Haven. And he spoke about the need at this time for our country, all of us, to come together regardless of what our political beliefs are, whatever our religious beliefs are, whatever our race, whatever our creed, our ethnicity. And it was one of the most, I don't even know how to describe it. It was one of the most beautiful services I've ever attended. It was a small number of people there. We sang together, we prayed together, and they prayed for the city. And they prayed for the mayor, they prayed for the government leaders. And so as we entered into this spirit tonight of this commission meeting, and we have important business to discuss, I thought I would just lead us in the Lord's Prayer, if that's okay. So if we could all stand. Thank you. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name.
Thy kingdom come.
Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever and ever. And I left out the daily bread. I'm sorry. Going along. If you would join me now in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm so glad that the Lord above understands that it's almost as bad to forget the Lord's Prayer in public as it is to forget the words to the national anthem as a singer. Now looking at the mayor's report, just wanted to talk very quickly about some of the activities that have been going on. I did attend the Bay County League of Cities meeting on the 23rd, and we talked about some of the bills coming before our Florida legislature and the importance of that bill. And so I hope that many of you will take the time to call your representatives and talk to them. And specifically, there's one bill that's coming up regarding home rule in municipalities. The state is wanting to, if this were to pass, they would have more say over our regulations for businesses, business licenses, and regulations on people who do business in our cities. And the League of Cities all over the state of Florida is lobbying against this because they believe that cities should have the power to regulate their own businesses and how they conduct business in those cities. I also had the opportunity to attend the Publix Recognition Day yesterday, where they recognized the amount of money and the charitable work that Publix does all across the Southeast. And just here in Lynn Haven, the Publix employees gave almost $250,000 to our charitable agencies with the United Way. So I was very happy to do that. I also had an opportunity to visit the Porter Park boat improvement, the boat ramp improvements, and many of us are avid boaters, and so we did some looking around Lynn Haven for some alternate boat ramps and some places that people could use, and we've been putting that on Facebook and talking with people about some other places they could go during this 90-day time. And had the opportunity to meet with our Leisure Services Director and her assistant, Tracy Johnson, who is over at the events coordinator, and I really appreciated that. And we talked about the upcoming Jazz Festival in Lynn Haven and all the wonderful things that they're planning. The most exciting title of a band that I've heard in a while was called Horn Stew, that will be at our Jazz Festival on March the 18th. So we're going to have a really good time. And I also got to meet with Chris Foreman of Panhandle Engineering, and he explained some things to me that were kind of on my mind and helped me out a lot with some understanding of some of our issues. And also met with the city manager. So it's been a busy couple of weeks, and still enjoying being the mayor of Lynn Haven. Commissioner Shad, do you have a report?
No report other than the fact I've been down in bed for about 10 days with the flu. You don't want it.
We're glad you're feeling better and you're back. Commissioner Ashbrook?
So I'm the incubator now? Need to sit down at the other end of this thing. I attended... well, first of all, I'll mention and get a plug-in for this Saturday. There's a big to-do about the sports festival that we kick off every year down at the Sports Center. So if it's anything like it has been in the past, there'll be a whole lot of little leaguers down there with moms and dads, and they're going to have a fun time. I think Maria's probably got the festival rolling down there. On a more serious note, I was at a TPO meeting, and we're going to kind of tag team this, myself and Commissioner Friend. I'm going to take the west side of 390, and he's going to take the east side of 390. A few things are going on over there. It's still in the throes of what the general public thinks is going on. However, the first phase is going to be delayed a little bit. They were going to let the contracts in March, and that's now going to be pushed back I think 2 months or 3 months. It's kind of strange. There's some engineering nuances on that leg, which is, I guess, probably the longest leg from 23rd and Beck as it comes up to Baldwin. They aren't going to delay, which is kind of strange, they aren't going to delay the second phase, so it's actually probably going to go to bid before the first phase. So anyway, that's without getting into a whole lot of minutia about why and how come. That's what we were appraised of and by FDOT. And then I'll hand off the rest of that meeting to Commissioner Friend.
Okay, I guess I can skip over. Commissioner Friend, would you like to do your report next so it ties in with Commissioner Ashbrook? Or never mind, Commissioner Barnes, go ahead. I was just trying to tie the two topics together.
Yeah, that's fine.
Commissioner Barnes, do you have a report?
Yes. This past Thursday, we had a lockdown drill at Haney Technical Center. And as you know, in the school system, with all the things that are happening that are not good and dealing with school safety and things of that nature, all the schools in Bay County are required to have a lockdown drill starting this year. And we had our lockdown drill this past Thursday. I bring that to your attention because the Lynn Haven Police Department, along with the Bay County Sheriff's Department, participated in that drill with us. And I take my hat off to Chief Reamer, Officer Caitlin Anglin, I'm sorry, Caitlin, just lost it, and Lieutenant Brian Blaylock, who helped us out getting this drill organized. It worked beautifully, successfully. We were able to evacuate that building in 5 minutes, which, if you know Haney Technical Center, it's from Highway 77 over to Minnesota Avenue. So I just want to say publicly thank you to the Lynn Haven Police Department and the Bay County Sheriff's Office who came in to help us with that drill. and to get us better prepared if something should happen on that campus.
Thank you. Anything else, Commissioner Barnes? Okay. Commissioner Friend?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, just rest of 390. Good news, bad news, I guess. We got a report from Florida Department of Transportation, not from the engineer, so we'll get a report on that later. But basically what they're doing is they've stopped the PD&E study. As we all, just to refresh everyone, the state took over from 77 to 231. State took over that portion of 390 from the county. Took us a long time to get that done. It finally got done. We were hoping things would move along a lot faster for that section of 390. But now we got a report at the last TPO meeting last Wednesday that they've stopped the PD&E study for that section as a 4-lane because they want to look at it now as a 6-lane. So I guess that's maybe so that it ties into the rest of the 6-lane on the other side of 77. So maybe that's good news. It'll end up being 6 lanes eventually. I think the bad news is that it's going to delay the process a little bit. So that's that. So if anybody have any questions or concerns, feel free to reach out to us. We'll be glad to go over it with you. And hopefully, I think we're scheduled at the next TPO meeting to get an update from the actual engineer. And I've already got a call into her to try to get a little bit more information on it. So, and the only other thing I'd say is, looking forward to Saturday. We got to run a 5K for cookies, Girl Scout cookies, and then we'll go throw a ball at Sports Complex. You got time to do both. That's all, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. And then I need to go back and pick up the proclamation. This is the Problem Gambling Awareness Month in Florida, and whereas the City of Lynn Haven has recognized March as Problem Gambling Awareness Month to demonstrate its support in addressing problem gambling and to support the initiative of Florida Council on Compulsive Gambling to bring awareness to the issues surrounding problem gambling in our community, and recognizes that this is a public health issue which impacts family, friends, and businesses with significant societal and economic costs, affecting more than 1 million Floridians of all ages, races, and ethnic backgrounds in all communities. And whereas with each problem gambler directly affects 8 to 10 other individuals with negative consequences to personal and social relationships of the immediate family. And whereas the Florida Council on Compulsive Gambling's public awareness campaign provides an opportunity to educate the public, policymakers, educators, businesses, mental health, criminal justice professionals, and others about the adverse effects of gambling, its social, legal, financial, and emotional impacts, as well as available treatment. And whereas problem gambling is treatable for those who seek help, which minimizes the harm to Floridians and to the state as a whole. And whereas numerous individuals, professionals, and organizations who are dedicated to assisting families in need can participate in preventing problem gambling by promoting the statewide 24-hour helpline 888-ADMIT-IT and by making assessments and treatment readily available. And now, therefore, I, Margo Deal Anderson, Mayor, the great city of Lynn Haven, Florida, do hereby proclaim March 2017 as Problem Gambling Awareness Month, in witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused the official seal of the city of Lynn Haven, Florida, to be affixed this 28th day of February 2017. Thank you. Moving on now to, is there any representative here from this organization, I'm sorry, that I need to address or introduce? Thank you. Is there a motion to accept this proclamation?
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any discussion from the public? Mr. Schubert, would you please call the roll for acceptance?
Commissioner Shad?
Aye.
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes?
Aye.
Commissioner Ashbrook?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes. The motion stands accepted. Moving to item number 5, which is the city manager's report. Mr. Schubert?
Thank you, Mayor. I spent most of the day yesterday in depositions regarding a lawsuit that was brought against the city, and there's no other way to couch it except it was frivolous. I think our staff we were more than just in doing what we needed to do regarding an employee about a year and a half ago, and against council's advice, we didn't settle. We said, no, we're right, we're going to take it to court, and they voluntarily withdrew their lawsuit. So that's the model I'm planning on following. I think some of these amount to a little more than extortion, and I think it's a good line to take, and that's what we'll be doing from now on. On a more positive note, the commission spoke of an amnesty, or actually voted on amnesty for special pickup for March. So we have done that. It's advertised on both the website and on social media. So for all citizens for the month of March, as part of the Operation Cleanup Fix Up, Operation Cinderella, those special pickups will be picked up at no charge. I'd also like to announce a couple other special events. March 9th, there is a block party for the Board of Downtown in Panama City for the Bay County Board, and our fire department is participating in the bed race. I think most of you are aware of that little event. So if you can, go down there on March 9th and encourage our firemen to take the gold down there. Ace Hardware, we spoke about in the CRA meeting. Their grand opening is actually tomorrow at 4 p.m. while they've been open for a couple of weeks. If you can, join them tomorrow at 4 p.m. for their grand opening. Following up on the last workshop we had before the commission, we pursued, and the commission directed me to go to pursue upwards of 10 to 12 million for our half-cent sales tax project, which ours concentrates on roads and the adjacent infrastructure. With the commission's blessing, I'm going to pursue local financing options or financing options besides a bond, and I plan on bringing back a complete financing package to that end within the next month. And the only thing I have left is Officer Anglin has some special recognition for Coffee with the Cops, so I'll turn it over to her.
Hello, thank you for having me. As you said, I'm Officer Anglin with the Haven Police Department. Back in December, on the 17th, we had an event called Christmas with the Cops. It was a great event. We had a huge turnout. It actually ended up being bigger than we expected, with over 3,000 people. Leisure Services helped us a lot by hosting for us and having a place at the Recreation Center that we could have this event. After the event, all the agencies that came packed up their stuff and left, which was great because they did a wonderful job, but they left us with a big mess. And when I say big, I mean it was a huge mess. And myself, another officer, and Brent, one of the employees that actually works at the Recreation Center, were left to kind of clean most of it. And this being that, like I said, we did not expect that big of a turnout. But during this event, we actually had a movie going on in the gym, and we had two families that were actually still watching the movie. And they noticed us kind of walking around and picking up tables and chairs and trying to clean up all the trash that was left. And they actually stopped watching their movie and came and decided to help us instead. So for about an hour and a half to 2 hours, they spent time with us sweeping floors, cleaning up tables, picking up food off the floor, vacuuming, and every other chore that you could think of. And it was amazing to us that they spent that time. So as a police department and a city of Lynn Haven, we really wanted to recognize them for this. So if I could please have the Davis family and the Kraus family step forward for me. Okay, we actually have 2 certificates for you to recognize your families for what you've done for us and your contribution to the city. As I said, this was amazing that you went above and beyond. Most people would not offer this help. As you see, they're little helpers. Decided to help us. All 3 of them were actually the ones out there with brooms, and they swept the entire gymnasium floor of the rec center, which if you've been in there, it is huge. So it was amazing, and we just want to say thank you.
Did you have any more on your report?
No, that's it. Thank you, Mayor.
Item number, and thank you so much for coming to the commission meeting tonight. What a wonderful thing that your 2 families did. We would love to have you stay for the rest of the meeting if you'd like, but if you get bored with all the excitement, please feel free to leave at any time and not feel any bad thoughts. Item number 6 is our, and I said that right before, the city attorney's report. Go ahead.
Hopefully it's not boring. Just a quick follow-up, Mayor and Commission, on the an item from last meeting. There was a citizen that asked about the applicability of Form 1 to the Infrastructure Tax Oversight Committee and the CRA Advisory Committee. And I took a look at that, and it's my opinion that that doesn't apply to those advisory committees unless the commission wants to do so in the future. Other than that, that's all I have.
Okay, thank you very much. Then moving on to item number 7, it's a public hearing, and I'll need to state the time, which is 6:20, and the public hearing is open. And this is a large-scale future land use map amendment, LSA 17-1, the transmittal of comprehensive plan text amendment on the fuel depot property. And we have Amanda Richard, who is our city planner, to give us a report.
This is, as you say, a large-scale future land use map amendment, and it is for the transmittal of the comprehensive plan amendment to the state, DEO. So the applicant is Blue Water Development Partners, LLC. The location is the Lynn Haven Fuel Depot property and railroad right-of-way. The parcel size is approximately 110 acres. There are a number of parcels involved and also a partial parcel, and these are the parcel numbers up there. It also includes the 100-foot wide railroad right-of-way, which runs from Causeway southeast to Highway 390. The current land use, there are 3. The main land use is Research Park, which is about 94 acres, and the remainder is public institutional with 1.6 acres of low-density residential. The proposed land use for the property will be commercial, 34 acres, and mixed use, 76 acres. This map shows you all the property that's involved in the application for the land use amendment, and the blue outline shows you the parcels involved and also the railroad right-of-way that runs down to Highway 390. I don't think you're going to be able to see, but there's a tiny little red arrow pointing down to a very small parcel, which is the low-density residential parcel, and it's kind of to the north of that railroad right-of-way. This is the aerial shot of what the property looks like at the moment. It is the abandoned Air Force Fuel Depot. The adjacent land use compatibilities to the north are the open waters of North St Andrews Bay. To the south is industrial, which also allows for multifamily units. The east is public institutional and the FSU portion of the parcel. And then to the west is industrial. This shows you the existing land use at the moment. That brown colour is the Research Park land use. The blue, the pale blue, is public institutional. And where that red star is that you can see, that will be the portion, or that is the portion that FSU will be having. This shows the proposed land use. The purple colour is the mixed use, and that reddy pinky colour in the middle is the proposed commercial, and that will be for the main Marina Centre Village and the marina itself. The proposed future land use map amendment is compatible with the intent and purpose of the future land use element of the comprehensive plan. We have to show the state how it is compatible, whether it will be compatible or not, and it is with our comp plan, and specifically Goal 1 and the objectives 5, 7, 9, 11 and 13. As far as concurrency goes, the future land use element objective 9 states all new and existing land uses shall be adequately served by facilities and service at the level established in the comprehensive plan. Following a capacity analysis, it was established that there is capacity in the required areas of water, sewer, and solid waste removal. There is also adequate infrastructure in place to service the property. And these are all things that the state requires us to look into. Roads, an analysis was submitted that looked at the worst case scenario under the proposed land use. So if they were given that land use it wasn't looking at what they are planning to do with that land use, but the worst case scenario, if, for example, somebody else was to develop under that land use. And the FDOT widening of Highway 390 from 2 lanes to 6 lanes provides ample capacity on 390. Project trips were then distributed onto the surrounding transportation network until the project traffic was less than 4.5% of the trips generated by the project. And it was found that the proposed future land use map change would not adversely impact any segments. If the land use amendment passes, a more detailed and updated concurrency analysis would be required at the time of actual proposed development, when the developer would bring the development orders to us for development. They would have to provide an analysis at that stage, and if required, specific transportation mitigation strategies would be identified in that analysis. And then finally, what happens now? If you vote to transmit the application to DEO, and that's what this is about tonight, it's a resolution asking you whether you would like for this to be transmitted to DEO. This went before the Planning Commission last Wednesday at a special meeting, and they unanimously voted for you to transmit it to DEO. So if you do decide tonight to transmit it to DEO, then we have to send that to DEO and the review agencies within 10 working days of this public hearing. DEO then notifies the city that they have received it within 5 working days of their receipt. DEO issues its comment letter to us, to the city, within 30 days of receiving the amendment. And also the reviewing agencies that we have to send it to. We also have to send this to DOT, DEP, and a number of different reviewing agencies. They send their comments to the city and DEO within that 30 days. And then following that, the city adopts the plan amendment with the effective date within 180 days of receipt of the agency's comments. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the board? Thank you. If there are any questions from the public, if you would let me know, and then if you would come to the podium and address it directly to the board, and then we do have members from Blue Water Development here, as well as our city planner who could answer your questions. Anyone have a question or concern about the issue? Okay, thank you. The public hearing is now closed at 6:28. Moving on to the consent agenda, what we'll be doing, I will read items 8, 9, and 10, which are the items under the consent agenda, then ask for a motion and a second, and then I will allow discussion from the board or from the public regarding these 3 items. So item number 8, minutes from the February 14th regular meeting. Item number 9, award cured-in-place pipe from the SIP program sewer rehabilitation contract to American Infrastructure Technologies Corporation in the amount of $157,910. And then item number 10, approval of a change order for BCL Construction in the amount of $74,847 to stabilize the shoreline at Kensal Park. Is there a motion to accept these 3 items?
Also moved. Second.
There's been a motion and a second to accept the items on the consent agenda. Are there any questions or concerns from the board? I would make one note on the minutes from the February 14th meeting regarding, it was one of the last items on that meeting, the vote regarding the resolution for use of alcohol on Florida Avenue without having commission approval. It reads in the minutes that it was a 5-0 vote when it should have been a 4-1 vote. So that was an error that I saw in the minutes. Any other discussion or? Okay. Any discussion or questions from the public regarding these 3 items? And there appears to be none. So Mr. Schubert, would you please call the roll for acceptance?
Commissioner Ashbrook?
Yes.
Commissioner Shad?
Aye.
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes?
Aye.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes, and so items 8, 9, and 10 have been approved. So then we'll move right into new business, which is item number 11. Item number 11 is Resolution 2017-02-672, amending the Purchasing Procedural Guide. Is there a motion for acceptance of this amended guide?
I move approval.
Second.
And there's been a motion and a second. Mr. Schubert, would you please read the resolution?
Resolution number 2017-02-672, a resolution of the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, amending various chapters of the city's purchasing procedural guide, amending the local purchasing preference for certain qualified vendors and providing an effective date.
Thank you. Are there any questions or discussion from the board regarding any of the changes to the procedural guide? I personally had a discussion, or not a discussion, but just a concern about the change to change the city manager's ability to make a purchase of above $35,000 without commission approval. The way it's worded, I could see, maybe giving a larger amount in view of the fact that cost of living is up. Things cost more now than they did a few years ago. But to be able to authorize a purchase up to the amount of what's been budgeted for the year, to put that in one person's hands, I think is taking away some of the city commission's checks and balances, which were put in place for a reason. So that's my concern. So I don't know if anyone else has a similar concern or if it's just me. Then I would say that it's probably just me. Are there any questions from the public or concerns about the changes to the procedural manual? And
Mayor,
okay.
just in response, I'm certainly not trying to get any more power. The thought was there was a certain amount of bureaucracy, and that, as you know, in September we sit down and review the budget page by page, line by line. And if the commission has approved those budgeted items, and if they remain within budget or less, it was just saying not to bring it back to the commission. I'd also point out that the budget is also approved again during a mid-year and then also during a final. So the commission approves the original allotment, and then they can also see what happens 2 other times during the year.
Well, I certainly understand how the budget works, Mr. Schubert. I understand that we have a time to review it, but as I've said in private and in public, I do disagree with that. So I appear to be the only one, so there's not any discussion from the public. So I stand with what I said, and you may please call the roll.
Commissioner Barnes?
Aye.
Commissioner Ashbrook?
Yes.
Commissioner Shad?
Aye.
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
No. And the motion stands approved, 4-1. Moving on to item number 12, Resolution 2017-02-676, the transmittal of comprehensive plan text amendment, the large-scale plan amendment, LSA 17-1. Are you ready to read that resolution?
Yes.
Thank you.
Resolution number 2017-02-676, a resolution of the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, authorizing transmittal to appropriate agencies an amendment to the comprehensive plan amending the future land use map from public, institutional, and research park to commercial and mixed use on property located on Lynn Haven Fuel Depot property and railroad right-of-way, parcels number 0829-000-000, 0819-7-000-000, parcel 08948-000-000, portion of parcel 10940-000-000, parcel 09753-000-000, parcel 09756-000-000, plus 100-foot wide railroad right-of-way from Causeway Southeast to Highway 390, which is approximately a total of 110 acres.
Thank you. I know that resolution was as painful to read as it was to listen to. Is there a motion to accept this resolution?
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion or further questions from the board regarding this? Of course, this is what we, pardon me, this is the resolution and we just completed the public hearing. Are there any questions or concerns from the public? There appear to be none. So, Mr. Schubert, would you please call the roll for item number 12?
Commissioner Shad?
Aye.
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes?
Aye.
Commissioner Ashbrook?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes. So item number 12 is approved. Item number 13 is discussion and possible action regarding potential amendment to the April 2016 land sale. Is there a staff report regarding this item?
Yes. Yes, I can speak to this. This was a sale the city made to Mr. James Finch back in April of 2016. It was approximately 288 acres. It was affectionately known as the 640. It's been in the city's hands, or had been in the city's hands, the full property for upwards of 30 years. And we just didn't have any use for it, or at least all of it. We still mine dirt, and we still lease a portion of it. We still have a laydown area or two, considerable acreage for debris from storms if we need it. But we sold 288 acres at the time of the sale. There wasn't a final survey as far as the conservation easement, so really the shape of the parcel was still in question. The successful bidder, again, James Finch, bought these 288 acres, then paid to have it surveyed, and then realized for the use he was going to put it to, it was really missing a northwest corner, and he just wants to square that off. So he wrote a letter, it's in part of your package, petitioning the commission to amend that sale for 15 acres, and you can see it in it's the grayed out or kind of light bluish area in the middle of the screen just south of the white road, and it's approximately 15 acres, and he has offered us the same price per acre as far as purchase price, which was approximately $2,100. So he can use that land to his highest and best use. The city is still able to use the remainder of the balance of the land for what they need it for as well. So if the commission approves this, we would still have to, because of our ordinance, we'd still have to advertise it for 2 weeks. But he has petitioned the commission to purchase this, to amend that sale with that 15 acres.
Thank you. Is there a motion for acceptance for this land sale?
So moved.
Second.
So there is a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion from the board? Questions or discussion from the public? Okay, Mr. Schubert, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Ashbrook?
Yes.
Commissioner Shad?
Aye.
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes?
Aye.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes. So the land sale is approved. Item number 14, discussion and possible action regarding piping the balance of the 17th Street ditch. Is there a staff report regarding this item?
Yes, Mayor. Okay, as most as the commission and most citizens know, we just finished, or Phoenix Construction just finished piping the east side of the 17th Street ditch. There was approximately 3,300 feet there. It was a project that the city had been taking on incrementally, about 200 foot apiece a year annually. And rather than do that, the commission adopted a fix-it-now approach and got it done within the last year. We're going through some of the checklist items, some of the final checklist items, and the commission at that time also approved the financing and a promissory note to pay for that for 20 years at an interest rate of 2.55 with that contractor. At the same time, the contractor also offered us a very economic way to finish the west side as well. Rather than making that decision back in August 2015, the commission advised me to go back and attempt to partner with DOT, because DOT owned 900 feet on the west side of 17th Street ditch, and there's approximately 1,550 feet. So rather than make the decision and pipe both sides, the commission asked me to go partner with DOT. In the interim, DOT has agreed to pipe that 900 foot on the west side. So that is a successful partnership, and we're proud of that. In the meantime, that leaves a balance of 650 feet on the west side to complete the whole project. At the time, back in August of 2015, the contractor had offered to do that side, economies of scale, one mobilization, et cetera, for right at $1.6 million. It was $1,595,000. Because the majority of that is going to be done by DOT, that 900-foot, the 650-foot balance is approximately 42%. So he has prorated that, or that 42%, which amounts to about $668,000. So that decision, which rightly so the commission deferred about a year and a half ago, and now we only have to deal with 42% of it, is now again in front of the commission for consideration at a substantial cost savings, I might add. The only other thing I would add, if the commission does decide to go ahead and finish this ditch, I would also, two things. One, to expedite, I would ask for the change order to be part of the motion if it is decided to do that, so that we can expedite that and not have to bring it back to the commission, so the mayor, city manager can sign that change order, and there would also necessarily be a $35,000 engineering task order as well. And again, I would say that $35,000, the share should be, it was originally $100,000 as far as that task order, which would amount to $42,000, be 42%, but that has been discounted down to $35,000. So two things. One, the authority for the mayor and or the city manager to sign both the engineering task order and then also the change order to finish the ditch. And then two, while the commission approved again up to do a promissory note for the east side for $3.72 million, I would also petition, if the commission decides on the west side, to add this $668,000 to that promissory note, which we can do. I've talked to the city engineer about, and the contractor has also offered a 25-year term as well as a 30-year term. And just for perspective, the debt service that we have on the east side already is going to be approximately $239,000 annually. I would add that that's less than what we were paying for the incremental approach. It's done now. If we were to do the whole thing, if the commission decides to do the whole thing and we went to 25 years, that payment would stay the same. It would still be $239,000 a year. If the commission decided on the 30 years, it would be $211,000 annually in debt service. So I'd be happy to answer questions. I know that was a lot of numbers and a lot of verbiage, but I'd be happy to answer any questions about it.
Thank you for that report. Is there a motion from the board that we would take action on that this evening?
Mayor, I move that we approve this project with the information that the city manager has included. You said the 25-year, Mr. Schubert, was the same 239?
The 25 years would give the same debt service as we currently have for. I would recommend, the 30 years, because as part of this promissory note, we also have the ability to pay it off early with no penalty. So, I mean, that leaves our options open.
Well, including that in, given that information, right, because I was thinking about paying it off early as well. So,
is there a second to Commissioner Barnes' motion?
I'll second that.
There's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion or further questions from the board regarding this?
Yes, Mayor, I do.
Commissioner Friend?
Mr. Schubert, if you would then, just clarify for me then, because we got we're doing the additional 650. We have a physical impact of 668. We're going to finance it, tap it to what we've already financed. We're going to extend it to 30, which is going to keep the debt the same. But the change order, did I miss something there? Are we going to add to the 668?
The change order would be the 668 to the original contract on the east side.
That is the change order, and that's what I missed. I apologize.
35 for the engineering.
Great. Which includes the engineering.
No, that's okay.
Yeah, and
I missed that somewhere.
That should actually be 668 as far as the change order, and 35,000 in an additional task order for the engineering.
Okay, thank you.
Are there further questions from the board?
I had one question, and I'm going to presume with engineers and contractors, they're bigger minds than mine. We're going to come to a point where this all splices in a couple of years to 390. Is there a point where does so smoothly where we don't have to tear up 100 feet of what we installed this year, 2 years from now, when the 6-lane highway comes by. I'm getting a nod from the engineer, so I'll take that as a yes. Okay.
Chris Forehand, would you like to come forward and address that question? Thank you.
I can address it unless you want to.
Well, he was actually,
Oh.
he was asking for the engineer's opinion, so I think that's what I would like to, I'd like to hear the engineer's opinion as well.
I'll be happy to. I'm Chris Forehand with Panhandle Engineering. We have looked at the 390 widening plans, and they do have a double barrel box culvert that comes across 390, and we've looked at where that ends, and we will tie into that box culvert. So yes, we have looked at that.
Look too far and then have to back up.
Correct.
Take out.
And then we'll tie in on the other end to where DOT leaves off on their 900 feet.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from the board? Concerns? Yes.
Mayor, I just have one clarification on the motion. The second part, as far as the note, that is to go to up to 30 years at the same interest rate as our current note.
Yes.
Okay.
That was my understanding, and then the payment is changed to 211 instead of, yeah. Okay. Are there any questions from the public or concerns? Okay, Mr. Schubert, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Barnes?
Aye.
Commissioner Ashbrook?
Yes.
Commissioner Shad?
Aye.
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes. And I am delighted with that action because that will take care of the rest of that ravine that passes through Lynn Haven once and for all. So I'm very excited about it. Moving to item number 15, that is the discussion and possible action regarding appointments to the Infrastructure Tax Oversight Committee. Just to remind everyone that this Oversight Committee is the committee of 5, with each commissioner having the ability to select one person from the community, and there have been applications submitted. This Oversight Committee would be those people who watch the spending as this commission moves forward over the next 10 years with this half-cent sales tax, which has landed on us and is going to give the city the ability with $17 million, perhaps as much as $20 million, to take care of our ancient infrastructure and our roads. So this is a very important committee. I'm sure that this entire commission is going to be set on the task of using these funds for what they were intended, but to have an oversight committee made up of community members puts one more band of safety on that to make sure that everybody does what they're supposed to do. So with that, is there a discussion? I was looking in my packet, and it seems that we have 5 applications. Did I miscount?
That's it.
So my thought on this, Mr. Attorney, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this and if there's further discussion from the commission, but my thought is if we only have 5 applications, we have 5 members of the board, but we'd need a motion to accept these 5 applications and move forward. Is there a motion to accept the applications of the 5 gracious Lynn Haven citizens who have put forth the effort to take this opportunity? And maybe, Mr. Schubert, would you read the 5 names? I know a couple of them, but...
Sure, and I guess the only question I'd have for the city attorney as well is, I think the way the resolution, you crafted the resolution, do we have to assign each name to a commissioner?
That's what I was asking.
Because I thought you had it tied to the tenure of the...
We did. Are each one of those applicants assigned to a particular commissioner, or they just came in?
They just came in.
They just came in.
So, I mean, do we have to do that, or?
The way it's structured, we probably should assign a commissioner to each applicant, and then that's that commissioner's applicant and for the future, because the terms are tied to the commissioner's terms.
Could each commissioner just select from the list?
Yes. Would
Okay.
you like me to read them?
I know we had Todd Wolfram and Jennifer Vigil, and I'm trying to think who the other 3 are. Those are the 2.
Charlie Commander, Anderson Edwards, John Todd Wolfram, Pamela Hiller, and Jennifer Vigil.
Okay, I will graciously abstain and let each of you select who you want, and I'll take the last person. So we could just start at this end if that's okay. And Commissioner Shad, who would you like to select?
I'll select Charlie Commander.
Commissioner Ashbrook?
I'm selecting Jennifer Vigil.
Commissioner Friend?
Todd Wolfram.
Todd Wolfram. And Commissioner Barnes?
Anderson Edwards.
Anderson Edwards, and then who will mine be?
Pamela Hiller.
Pamela Hiller will be my oversight person. Okay? Is there a motion for acceptance for these 5 brave citizens who've stepped forward to do this for us?
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any discussion from the board?
I would simply like to have an understanding, I guess, city manager and our staff and engineers will meet with these people to give them some guidance as to when and where they meet and what their duties are, because most of them probably don't know that yet. So it's just a public comment for those people who have volunteered after we've called them.
And I think we discussed that at some length last meeting, but I think that's very important. That I agree with you, Commissioner Ashbrook, that the city manager would get with them, very quickly and get that organized as to when the first meeting would be, because funds will start coming in March, which is tomorrow. Any other comments from the board? Any comments or questions from the public about the 5 applications? Yes, sir.
The last time I was here, we were talking about the 5 applications and the ones to James Finch, 410 East 2nd Street. The city was going to make a resolution to state that they were going to do the infrastructure tax only. This money would be nothing used for nothing but this. And I was wondering if y'all had made that resolution in a prior meeting or not, but y'all had said y'all would entertain making a resolution to say that this was going to be infrastructure improvements only.
Thank you.
Because the Oversight Committee just really oversees the bills after you pick what you're going to do through the city and the staff, and then they make sure you did what you're supposed to do. But the projects are picked by y'all prior to that.
And I think that that's a great reminder that these funds are to be spent only for infrastructure, paving, pipes, and I would ask, have we entertained a motion or have we had any discussion about this resolution? Because I do think that's an important point that's been made.
Weren't these stipulations as to what it could and couldn't be spent on in the actual referendum that was voted on and passed by the voters?
They are.
So we simply stick with using that as our guide, that the Oversight Committee will adhere to the same stipulations as in the tax referendum as passed by the voters.
But I think in deference to Mr. Finch's statement, I totally agree with what he said, because sometimes the intent can get lost after some time passes, and we've seen, and I'll just use the school board as an example, we've seen, the half-cent sales tax there, which has definitely, according to most members of the community, I'm not trying to take a stand either way, but there's been a lot of discussion on how that money's recently been spent. And so, I think that it's, even though the referendum was passed, I think a resolution from this board to reaffirm our commitment here in Lynn Haven that this money will never be used for anything except for that could not be a negative thing. That's my opinion. It would just
I have no problem with that resolution. I just don't need to write a resolution from scratch tonight, since we already have the defined criteria in the referendum. But a resolution to adhere to that as passed by the voters would be appropriate.
Mayor, if I may.
Sure. That's
my understanding as well. It is my understanding that we're working on the resolution, and it just didn't make it for this particular meeting, I suppose. But I'm in full support of the resolution identifying exactly what the voters voted on for the half-cent sales tax. I think another resident, Mr. Walker to be exact, brought up the opportunity because of the state statute, we could actually go outside of what the voters voted on, and I think I would feel very comfortable with a resolution that specifically points to the fact that we'll only use it for what was outlined for what they voted on. So I would be in full support of that, and I look forward to that resolution. We don't have to do it tonight. Obviously, it doesn't have to go with this, but I think it's something we can do.
Okay, so maybe it's just something to put on item agenda for next time for further discussion. Okay, thank you. Is there any other commentary this evening on
vote?
Is there any other comment on this particular item before we go to a vote from the public? And there appears to be none. So, Mr. Schubert, would you please call the roll for the appointments for the Infrastructure Tax Oversight Committee approval?
Commissioner Shatt?
Aye.
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes?
Aye.
Commissioner Ashbrook?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes. And so our oversight committee is in place, and we will be looking at putting the resolution on the next agenda for discussion and moving forward with that. The last item for tonight, because I promised Commissioner Friend I would try to move quickly because his favorite basketball team, I believe, is playing tonight, so we've done
It's
pretty
about
well.
halftime, so keep it short. No.
So we're at the last item, which is public commentary. Is there anyone who would like to speak on any subject tonight that's not been discussed? We're hoping that you feel better,
Miller.
Commissioner Shatt. Yes, Mr. Miller.
Leon Miller, 1508 Mississippi Avenue. Commissioner Franz brought the bad news and the good news about 390. Did the State Road Department or someone say it's going to definitely be 2 months in this study, or it's going to be longer?
I think, Mayor, if I may.
Oh, of course.
I think that she was unclear about that because she wasn't actually speaking as the engineer, but I think we could anticipate that it's going to be longer. Yeah, and it's rather unfortunate, actually, and I will elaborate a little bit on that. Is during the PD&E study that they were doing, sections of it failed. What they outline has failed, and that there's people in the room probably understand PD&E better than I do, but I ask, what does that mean? I mean, because were you there at 3 o'clock, or 5 o'clock? Because as we know, it's getting more and more congested at that particular time. But so the PD&E that they were working on for the 4-lane had already kind of failed, so they were already kind of pushing the project down the road. Of course, all that hinges on funding. There's no funding, but putting it in the priority list, as you know about for the TIP and CIS and all that. But I think we can anticipate that it's going to just be longer.
Okay. The other thing is that we asking our state representatives to get involved in this 390 from there.
Again, Mayor, if I may, yeah, I think City Manager does an excellent job communicating with our elected officials as well as the other commissioners. I know I personally do bring up Lynn Haven issues to them, and they're great supporters of Lynn Haven, so they'll be on it. And I'd like to follow up to add as well. One of the questions that I asked during the TPO meeting was, we need relief on 390 now. Is there any avenues that we can take? And Commissioner Ashbrook may have to help me out with the exact term that she used, but operational improvements, I think, is close to it, which means they might put in a turn lane at the sports complex. Okay, so, or as that development, the other thing that I think that the representative from FDOT was alluding to is, as that development out there continues to develop, that's going to obviously increase the traffic load. So if they wait a little while on the development to develop, maybe they go back out there and the test will be different, and that would move it along a little faster as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller.
And Mr. Miller, I have spoken recently with one of our representatives and also with the Lieutenant Governor 2 weeks ago about it, so I have been talking about it as well.
All right, thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to comment on anything else tonight about any issue? Yes, sir.
Bill Hodgkins, 2115 Country Club Drive. I had a really good opportunity at a luncheon today to listen to a presentation by Alan Bentz, who will be the chair of Triumph Gulf Coast. As the Florida House and Senate hopefully get closer in their bills to coming up with how this is going to be handled, Triumph Gulf Coast will incorporate and hopefully then start working with the $300 million that's currently the state is holding right now, waiting for appropriation, which is waiting on the bills to be formed. My question then is, do we have a process in place? This $300 million will be distributed via an application process. In other words, agencies, cities, whatever, will be applying to Triumph Gulf Coast for these funds, so long as it meets the criteria set out. Economic development will eventually, I think, be a big part of that. So then the question is, do we have a process in place? Are we looking right now as a city at what we might be asking for in anticipation of these funds being freed up?
I would answer your question, yes, that we have a list of projects, as well as the county, of course, and some of our projects have been included in the county's list, such as the Porter Park improvements that we've just done.
Good.
But, and anybody else who wants to join in on this, please feel free. But to me, one of the projects that we would be the most in line for, that we're going to be looking at, and which we've already been talking about with some of our representatives, I know I have, is the obvious, our Kensaw Park with the shoreline there, and how that could be improved, and how that could be restored, and how that could be made better for public use, and also that it could be safer during a storm. And then also for preparation, there's several different grants and other areas that are already being looked at for stormwater issues that we have in Lynn Haven every time we have a heavy rain, of course. And then preparation for a major catastrophe like a hurricane. Could some of those funds be used possibly for that? But then on top of that, for some of the economic development, which is one of the biggest issues, and of course that we don't know how that's going to play out yet until we see. But I personally, not trying to take a political side, but our Representative Trumbull, I think he's been doing a very good job in the last few days with some of the concessions and some of the negotiations that he's done, and as well as Senator Gaynor. I think that they're in our court, and you know, once that plays out, I think it's very important that we be ready to move. I'm
Good.
with
Well,
you.
I would have guessed you guys were all over it, but I just wanted to
But
ask
now
the
that's
question.
what I had to say. I want to give anybody else on the board an opportunity to address that question as well.
Mayor, I'll just follow up. Was it project or process in place that you were actually asking? Process. Okay. Yeah, because I wanted to make sure that I think we do have a process in place.
From
And
yes.
yeah, okay.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else from the public would like to speak on any topic? Okay, then at this point, I'd like to thank you all for coming. This is a great number of residents who turned out tonight. Wish you a happy Mardi Gras, and the Lent season begins tomorrow, so we're adjourned.